See, there we
There
go.
we go.
Before you get too
Right. I appreciate that. Yeah, halfway
Yeah.
through.
Yes.
So, all right, my camera's got to find focus. And if anybody sees my eyes darting to the side, I have a subconjunctival hemorrhage from this morning. I don't know why. So there, it looks like there's something in my eye. There's not. It's just some blood.
You're
Um,
receding.
But so today I wanted to talk about resilience. It's one of the things that I've been passionate about forever, with patients, with peers, with family, with everyone. And so a few weeks ago, Peggy, I don't know, I can't remember. Somebody had posted that they had watched the Matthew McConaughey talk that they had on the Tony Robbins platform.
Yeah, it wasn't me.
So he did a free talk. I'm like, Matthew McConaughey, sure, I'll sit there with, a room full of other people and watch and listen and hear. He's always intrigued me just with his personality. And so it was very appropriate timing because a lot of his points kind of played into what I wanted to talk about. But I feel like resilience is something that people believe you have or you don't have. And we look at other people and we can see folks who just seem to succeed no matter what life throws at them, what experiences they go through, and they just keep bouncing back. And it's like they're the Energizer Bunny, they're the happiest people on earth. And then we have people that they can have one little thing happen and it just completely derails their whole life. And that comes down to resilience. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can actually build resilience, that you don't have to necessarily have an inborn knack for it, though, like I said, some people seem to. That speaks to that nurture and nature component of our person. But there are some things that you can do to foster it. So I wanted to share a little bit about myself to give you kind of the evidence that I have some experience in this. I'm not a therapist. I'm a family medicine doctor who practices functional medicine. And this is not me playing my own fiddle. So this isn't for sympathy. I don't need like, oh, you poor thing. I'm good. I'm good. That's the thing, is I'm good. But my background is this. I am a child of divorce and alcoholism. My parents divorced when I was 5. And prior to that, my mother was actually the abusive spouse. My dad left for his secretary. It was one of those kind of cliche soap opera dramas. And my brother and I stayed with my mother, and she continued to be physically abusive as we were growing up. We lived kind of in poverty. It was one of those situations where you either thrived or you were swallowed whole. And I was one of those kind of nerdy, intelligent children. I didn't play outside a whole lot, but I loved to learn and I loved to read. And I knew there was a bigger world out there. And after, several years of growing and learning that, certain things that I was experiencing in my life weren't right, I did something about it. So at 13, I told my mother I wasn't coming home and I actually stayed and lived with my dad and stepmother. And that was a good choice for me on many levels because I was able to blossom and bloom and actually be a little bit more of who I was. But that was moving from a physically abusive home into a verbally, mentally abusive home with an alcoholic stepmother. And everything was our fault in the world. And then at 18, the day after high school graduation, I packed up and moved out and moved to Colorado by myself for the first time in my life to work for my uncle. And it was beautiful, except for I was lonely. So it created the need for me to fall into a relationship with my now ex-husband, but a relationship of 25 years that was not necessarily healthy. So this is kind of, we call it the victim of circumstance, but we are choosing to do things that filled the purpose or the need of the moment. And when we reach too hard to fill those, we often don't make the best decisions. I won't say that it was a wrong decision. I have 3 beautiful sons from that marriage. I have been able to become who I am today because of those experiences in that marriage. The other part of my adulthood, when I was learning resilience and how to overcome, it's really interesting the things that we can quickly overcome. You know, if something is so significant, this is where that neurolinguistic programming comes in with a sudden body motion, a loud noise, and a thought and emotion. You can make changes just like that. And so there are times in our life where we make sudden, rapid changes. And then there's times we allow simmering stress, simmering pain, simmering chaos to continue to cook us in the stew that we don't want. And so this is going to be some examples of how you get to choose both of those things.
I like that.
It was very difficult for me with my upbringing, which was very highly religious charged background as well on my mom's side of the family, to leave my ex-husband. You know, it was a relationship full of gaslighting. You know, I was a powerful professional woman, a very intelligent woman when I was at work on top of the world. I would get home and I would walk into the home and I would feel like the 17-year-old abused teen again. Not good enough, not adequate, not smart enough, you name it, all of those imposter syndrome things that our brain will tell us. And I would put on this mask of everything's fine. I didn't want my children to know that there was any problems. I didn't want the neighbors to know, didn't want friends to know. Everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. But over those 25 years, I lost almost every single one of my friends. They just quit calling because I could never hang out, or I could never talk, or it was never good news in my life. And so that was something that took a long time, that simmering, low level, all of the stories that we are taught as children. Those were what kept coming to me as to why I had to stay. Now, pair that with my health challenges. And I made some quick decisions based on those. I remember being in medical school and I was on my 4th surgery of the first semester of medical school. I had emergency back surgery right as I was starting my first year of medical school, had a ruptured disc and was paralyzed on one leg. Started medical school, did white coat on a walker with a PICC plate in it. Followed by wisdom teeth extraction. Oh, wait. The first back surgery was followed by an emergency abscess drainage and sepsis from that back surgery 2 weeks later. So I was, that's where the PICC line came in. And had a dear friend who drove me to and from medical school so I could take my pain pills and my muscle relaxers and sit through the lectures. I had straight A's. That was the only semester I had straight A's because I was not gonna fail. Then I had my wisdom teeth extracted because I was fine, but I was 30 years old. I thought I'd never need them taken out. But of course, under that stress and strain of everything, they needed to come out. And then I had my gallbladder went bad right after Thanksgiving and ended up having to have surgery for that. And then was in the hospital most of December due to post-cholecystectomy syndrome. So I'm sitting there trying to just keep going, positive mind. And one of my friends in medical school one day, I was standing there and I'm happy. I'm a happy person. I love being in the learning environment. So medical school was my happy place. And she said to me, "Aren't you mad at God for letting all of these things happen to you?" And I just was taken aback. I'm like, why would I be mad at God? What did he do to me? Well, he's letting all of this happen. And I'm like, that's an interesting take on life. And that was one of the first clues that I had that I was resilient, that I was actually able to go through a lot and still come out okay on the other side. And the difference between victimhood and victorship. So I told her, I said, I'm not mad at God because every single one of these experiences has taught me one more thing in how to be more compassionate to other people. And it has brought me closer to having full empathy with my patients. Prior to med school, I was a nurse. And so I had a few surgeries even before that. And I didn't realize it, but I was an empath, a physical empath at that time. So when I was at work, there were days that I was in agony. Nothing felt good. I was sick. My back hurt, my belly hurt, my chest hurt, you named it. I worked in coronary critical care. So there were days that I just couldn't hardly function. I would just go into a room and lay down for a little bit because I was just miserable. I didn't know what was wrong with me. And there was nothing wrong. I didn't know how to shield myself. And I learned that in medical school as well. And so that clued me in that there was something that I was doing that other people apparently didn't do. And that was looking on the positive side, not sitting into all of the ways that this negative event could impact my life. I didn't sit in it and stew in it and feel into it. There were times in my life, when I was younger, that it felt like drama was attracted to me. It felt like what could go wrong would go wrong. And I recognized as I grew through my 20s that didn't have to be. A lot of it had to do with mindset and how I treated other people and how I spoke to other people and how I thought. And so going through medical school, I watched this quite a lot, how the people who were successful in healing, or at least going through their disease process gracefully, were more resilient because of their mindset. And so this is what I want to really instill to other people, that our mindset has so much power. I teach this to my patients. As powerful as our brains are in the negativity, if we sit and think, we talk about anxiety, we talk about depression, we talk about PTSD, we talk about pain, agony, insomnia, all of the bad things. We talk about it, talk about it, talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. Think about the last time you sat and talked about joy, gratitude, love, happiness, peace. We don't talk about it. And if we go into a situation and only talk about the negatives from it, that's all you're going to get out of it. And so I really have been trying to teach people that as powerful as our brains are to bring about all of those negative emotions, those lower frequency vibrational states, if we spend time in the higher vibration states, we can attract more of that. We can create health, wellness, healing from that. So, Peggy, is this resonating with you? Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Have you had any experiences in your life where these things have kind of come to play? Or, I mean, you don't have to share if you don't want to, but.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And it's a good reminder to, like, sometimes when things suck, it's like you sometimes slip into the victim mode and you just want to wallow in it, for a moment. And it's always a good reminder to pull yourself out through tapping into those higher vibration thoughts. And, sometimes it's harder than others.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Over the last several years, when, the challenges didn't stop in medical school. I got through medical school, graduated from a walker, took Taekwondo to build my strength back up, started getting exposed to integrative and functional medicine in medical school at the DO school I went to. That was one of my clerkships, and it was wonderful.
Nice.
And got to meet naturopaths and acupuncturists who really helped me be aware of what an empath was. And then I met an energy specialist who does craniosacral, and he was the first one to really see me and share my talents and understand that there's more to us than the 3D physical body. And so that really sparked my interest in energy healing. And I recognize that I have a capacity for that as well.
Yeah.
I have to not be afraid to use it, but I'm not there yet. I haven't, not ready to go public on that.
That was my question. Are you using it? Yeah.
In small pieces.
Okay.
I energetically dive into diagnoses. I have intuitive hits for what my patients need, and I share that with them. But I've taken some classes, and I would like to do a little bit more learning before I go full out with patients on it. But it is something that is a profound gift, and I'm very grateful for it. I graduated, got through residency. In residency, I was 300 pounds and needed to lose weight. Was, typically unhealthy, insomniac, one of my trainers, she was a functional medicine primary care doc, and she got me turned on to ashwagandha and rhodiola. That was kind of my first journey down herbals, and
Yeah.
it made a huge difference in my resilience at that point, working 8 hour plus weeks, not sleeping, having 3 children, a marriage that was a little tough. There was a lot to recover from, and
Yes.
made it through, went to my first place of employment into a town that I'd never lived in, never been to, never thought I'd ever go to, which actually turned out to be the best thing that ever happened in my life. I had envisioned the mecca of functional medicine in Kansas, smack dab in the middle of the state. And lo and behold, that's the city I got put into, is Manhattan, Kansas. We call it Manhappiness. And so I'm harnessing the Flint Hills beauty, the sunsets, the wildlife, all of that. And I love it.
Nice.
My first month in practice, I lost my appendix. My appendix decided to go south on me, and I had a surgery. So that was 2015. 2017, I reacted to the flu shot and ended up paralyzed, and trying to figure out if I could be a doctor from a wheelchair, because I was the sole breadwinner at that point. My now ex-husband had decided he just didn't feel like working anymore and just quit. And that was one of my turning points in my health. I knew I had to make changes. I knew when I reacted to the only treatment for the condition I had, with a heart rate of 30 and the neurologist saying you can never take high dose steroids again. And as somebody with autoimmune disease, I knew I had to make changes. And so I made not really a deal with God, but more of a, okay, I'm listening. It's not that those gentle nudges on the shoulder to make change. I wasn't paying attention. So I got pushed off the cliff. And I decided, hey, I'm not going to sink into this river of despair. I'm going to swim and master this. And I did. And so I started working on myself. I started working on losing weight. I ended up having weight loss surgery at that time, which you can eat through. But at that point, I had lost and regained probably 1,000 pounds and never was able to get below 250 pounds. And I decided it was the route that I needed to go. On top of that, I ended up going to counseling because, again, the gaslighting had become so real. I had to have an external input to tell me that I wasn't crazy. And so I went through that. And after attempting couples therapy, my ex-husband served me with divorce papers for the third time in our marriage. And I told him, this one's going to stick. I'm not staying. And moved forward. And it was the best choice that I've made. I didn't want to do it to my children. Ultimately, it was for my children because they were going to see their mother thrive. And they see it all now, that I'm happy. I have a joy for life. I'm able to just thrive. At the same time, I left, the next year after the divorce, I left my practice of employed medicine and opened a direct primary care functional medicine practice in the middle of
Nice.
COVID. And
Nice.
here I am. So, I mean, it's doing well. I'm trying to learn how to do it best and have an outstanding delivery for my patients. And so I'm learning so many things here. In regard to resilience, there's going to be those things that are stressful, right? Divorce is stressful. A bad marriage is stressful. Telling your children you've got to leave their dad is stressful. Opening a practice, leaving a job, all of these things are stressors. And this is where that eustress, distress come into play. It's all stress, and it still turns your system potentially against you or against health and wellness. And so I really dove into journaling, mindfulness, meditation, exercise, eating right. And then I got remarried, and my husband's not such a fan of all of those things. He doesn't hate them, but he likes pizza and tacos and hamburgers. They're delicious foods. Don't get me wrong, but I don't need to eat them all the time. So I'm working on that continuing nurturing of myself. It's the resilient side of me. I decided, I woke up, I want to feel what it feels like to be fit in my 40s. I want to be fit. Okay, that's the next step. I want to continue to be fearless and brave in my job and in my workplace and in my occupation. So that's what we're moving into. We're going to continue with the journaling. We're going to continue with the meditation. We're taking it up several notches with Joe Dispenza. I'm doing a Tony Robbins business mastery course coming up in August, and I am just unwilling to let anything bring me down. So I wanted to share these 10 thoughts that I got from that Matthew McConaughey's session. Before I do that, Peggy, you have any comments?
No, I'm loving what I'm hearing. This is great. I'm glad that I'm here, and it's a good refresher for me.
Awesome.
And I love the idea of resilience. When I transitioned from nurse to nurse manager in a psychiatric hospital, look, one of the very first conference that I went to was on resilience, and always stuck with me.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you, and like some people inherently seem to be resilient and others not so much, but
Right.
I
We
like
can
it.
bring them along so long as their rubber band hasn't lost all of its elasticity. That's my visual for resilience is, you can pull on those big fat rubber bands and they'll bounce back to shape.
Yep.
But there's a point where you pull it so far, it'll either break or it'll stay stretched so long that it becomes brittle and then it falls apart. And so we need to not be here because we're all very capable of staying here with stress.
Yep.
The last 3 years have pulled us all here. We're all hanging out here. Well, we need to keep that rubber band supple and bring it back and come back to zero.
100%. Yes.
But yeah, I wanted to share, the big takeaways. 2 of them that we really talk about with Sachin and in the group is that we need to know our why.
Yep.
Right? We want to clear the lane between head and heart and find out who I want to be. Instead of having the disconnect, and we talk about that with chakras, this disconnect between heart and then the upper 3 chakras. This is our bridge, right? We have to clean those lanes and allow it to communicate all the way through our whole system. We need to admit the things that we are seeking. That's that why. What do I want? How do I want it? Those things. And then we need to accept where we're at, because if we don't accept where we're at, we don't have a jump off point. We don't have a starting point. So I'm here. This is the path that brought me here. These are the gifts I've been given. You can look at it as negatives. These are all the bad things that happened to me, but I continuously go to, why is this happening for me? Because if you look at it from that perspective, you are going to have so much of a better insight into loss, failure, hard times, all of those things that we think of as negatives. Great, they happened. I can sit and, as my friend calls it, Keisha, she's just wonderfully brilliant. She said, I told my husband, I'm not going to go sit in your shit pile. So when you're ready to climb out of your shit pile and you want some help, come to me, because I'm not going to sit in your shit pile any longer.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. And so it's so true. And so we accept where we're at. And the big things that I wrote down when I was going here, I am here. And I don't know everything. I need courage to be more honest with myself. I need to remember to give grace, but also hold myself accountable for my choices. I must be the best product of my programs in order to share what I have with other people. And one of the biggest things that I have to accept or admit to myself is that one of the things that holds me back is that I don't matter enough to do the hard things for my own life. That was a big thing that came to my awareness during that, is that that's one of the beliefs I'm holding on to, and I have to let that one go.
Yeah.
And that was huge for me. The third thing that he talked about was the illusion. And that's the illusion of life. What is your reality based on? When we look at the stories we were told from our parents, from school, from our grandparents, ancestors, what are the stories and the rules that we have applied to our life that create the reality that we believe we're in? One of the bigger things to think about is every culture has their own reality, their own set of rules that they were raised by. And so a way to expand yours is to experience others. And then really dive into it and try to figure out, what do I do that's creating the reality I have? What are the things that I'm actually doing that's creating things that I don't like? Or what am I believing about myself that aren't true, that are holding me back from my true self, from having that super reality, being that highest self? And so that was really cool. When it comes to conflict with other people in this illusion, when cultures clash, his recommendation was to be humble and to admit that you have more to learn. And every day I learn new things. And that was when I decided I was grown up, was when I realized that instead of defending when I'm wrong, accepting when I'm wrong and admitting that I have more to learn.
Yeah.
Being that young person that would deny, even if you finally realize that you're wrong, eating humble pie and saying, I was wrong. That's when I knew I was grown up, when I could do that.
Yep.
The next thing is complacency. It's admitting when we aren't ambitious enough. And that oftentimes during the time of complacency, it's because we're fearing failure, or that we don't give ourselves credit for our own ability, or we blame others. Complacency can be, oh, that's not my fault. So-and-so didn't pay their bill. So-and-so didn't tell me that. You didn't call me. Why didn't you call me and tell me that I didn't do XYZ? So there's some complacency there.
Yep.
The next thing with resilience that I find many people, it's so close, you're sitting right on the cusp, is your greatest strength can also be your greatest weakness. And that hit me really hard. You can become a repeat offender because you keep doing the same thing, keep doing it because you're really good at it. But it's also the spot that people, if that gets knocked out from under you, you got nothing, or you think you have nothing.
Yeah.
And the example was hilarious. He said, think about a guy running laps, running in a field or running laps. And he runs, and the first lap around, he steps, oh crap, almost falls, and it's dog poop, pile of dog poop. Keeps going as fast as he can. Second lap around, runs in the same pile. He doesn't course correct. And so that's that strength of being, if you're tenacious, if you're driven, if you're whatever, if you don't course correct when you hit those stumbling blocks, you're not going to move forward, or you're going to move forward, but it's going to be messy.
Yeah.
So this is where resilience, that stick-to-itiveness, he keeps running that mile, but he keeps running through the same pile of crap. Be resilient, but not at the expense of wisdom and discernment. So you can be happy, shiny, positive minded, but you need to discern and use your wisdom that, is this going to affect me in a way that is not for my highest and best good? And so discernment's really important when it comes to resilience, because you can bounce back and bounce back and bounce back, but if it's hurting you physically or emotionally or mentally or spiritually, you do have to course correct on that one. And then this also comes with preparation. For those of us who are procrastinators, we need to prepare a little bit. We need to go back and reevaluate what's working and what's not working, and prepare differently next time. The next thing he talked about was white lies. These create stress because, think about it, when you tell a little white lie so you don't hurt somebody's feelings, you end up having to make a bigger lie, or then you have to stress about remembering what you said, because your brain doesn't really remember the lies because it's not truth. It's not reality. So it's not what is ingrained in our heads. And so what we really want to do is think about the lies that we've been telling ourselves about ourselves. Are they getting bigger? Are you telling these lies about yourself to other people? Are you believing the lies and turning them into your reality? Number 8 is the boogeyman. Those fears, flaws, and future beliefs. The reality that hasn't happened yet, but it's the thing that you believe could happen, so it creates anxiety. This is one of those things that I have been working on quite a bit lately, and it's shadow work, where you go into the darkness We are yin and yang, light and dark, male, female, feminine, masculine. If we avoid our shadow, if we avoid our darkness, it will grow like a cancer. But if we
Yeah.
go in and nurture it and trim it like the rose bushes that it deserves to be and respect it, it can serve us. Okay, so that's our shadow. We also need to admit when we aren't perfect. Quit turning our dreams into nightmares by making it hard. What do you think is one of your biggest fears, Peggy?
Good question. I think being seen,
Yeah,
because I feel like when you talk about the dark side and the shadow work, I think one of the things that makes me the angriest is not being seen. But I also think that that's also my biggest fear is being seen.
yeah. I wrote down my fear is rejection of others' opinions
Mhm.
and being seen.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I had a really wise person, I can't remember who. Oh, it's probably Kesha again, because she's full of all these one-liners.
Yeah.
When I worry about what others' opinions are, her answer is, it's none of your goddamn business.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. It doesn't
That's not,
matter.
is that not Dr. Keisha, is it?
No, no,
No.
it's Keisha Lawrence here in Manhattan.
Okay.
It's so funny
Okay.
because
It's funny.
she's just like, it's none of your business what they
I
think
love
about
it.
you.
That's
And I'm
right.
like, okay, well,
Yes.
and it's true because
Yes.
that is their emotional attachment to their response to me. And their emotions are theirs, not mine.
Has nothing to do with you or
Yeah,
me. Yes.
exactly. And so this is where we really have to step into that fear of being
Yeah.
seen for who we truly are. So this is a big permission to do that because it doesn't matter what they think. Because there's going to be people
100%.
who fully receive what you have to say.
Yes. Yes.
And there's the gratitude. Number 9 is gratitude. This is something that is preached at us and preached at us and preached at us, and it becomes tongue in cheek and it becomes cliche. When it was expressed to me this way, it makes a lot of sense. He asked, do we dissect our successes as much as we dissect our failures?
No.
We want to repeat where our attention goes, energy flows. So if we're dissecting our failures, we're going to continue to recreate our failures. So we need to dissect and have gratitude for our success, because if we don't pat ourselves on the back and learn what we did right, because we're trained not to, because that's, haughty, that's, conceited. No, we have to dissect our success so we can recreate them.
Yeah.
So that was really a big deal. We need to offer gratitude for ourselves. On top of all those other things that we're grateful for, we have to be grateful for ourselves and our brain and our power and our knowledge and our gifts. So that was, this.
I like that a lot. I really
Yeah.
do. It's because you're right. The gratitude is kind of, we talk about it and we go to it. We're practicing it, but I
Right.
like that. Dissect your success so you can repeat it.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my goodness. And that's what I've started to do in my practice is, instead of sitting here worrying about all the things we're doing wrong, well, what did I do right to get us to where we are now? We're going to do more of that. And what that is being genuine and from the heart and being vulnerable and admit when we're wrong instead of trying to protect and hide those hard things.
Yeah.
So the last thing we talked about was highest value. What is the highest value? And that is trust. And again, trust kind of gets overused or simplified. And I find more and more and more when we're communicating with the public is that there's this vast sense of distrust for everyone and everything. Everybody's out to get them. Everything, no matter what you search or find, can hurt you, harm you, impair your ability to achieve success. And everybody is on the guilty until proven innocent type mentality. And so the challenge is this, is to trust others and allow them to earn your distrust rather than make them earn your trust. It's that fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. So go into it with the idea that you're going to allow others to reveal themselves to you. And if you can go into it with a trusting, open heart, you're going to find that you are able to meet others where they're at. And that has a lot to do with resilience as well. Because if you're automatically already gut clenched into somebody's going to screw me over, I can't trust anybody, life sucks, then you die. Guess what? Life sucks and then you die.
Yep.
So going into it with openness, again, elevating ourselves to those higher frequency vibrations. That's where resilience comes from. Trusting that our higher power is in this for us, not against us. That we do have the ability to move ourselves from those lower vibrational energies and experiences into higher when we ask, why is this happening for me, not to me? And really bringing others along with you when you approach life from those higher levels. I feel like this group is amazing in as much as, you know, when you get into a session here, that you're going to have people that are going to bring you up and that the energy is going to come up. And if there's somebody in the crowd that's kind of down, everybody's going to work to spiral them up. And if they're not, that's great. We love you. We're going to stay high. And I think it's just fantastic. So it's been such a phenomenal opportunity to kind of meet my tribe finally. And so this has been great. Yeah.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, Peggy?
I love it. This is very inspiring, and I hope that other people watch it because I love what you had to say. It's just a great message for people to listen to and just ignite ignite us wherever we're at. So thank you for that.
You're
Thank you
very
for
welcome.
that's
Of
great.
course. I'm happy to be able to do it. So I will send this recording to Carol so other people can have the opportunity to listen. But I'm glad to meet you here. We could have done it last
Yeah,
week, it looks like,
we
but
totally
you know what?
could have.
I
It
feel
was
better
meant to
here
be.
tonight.
Good. Perfect.
Yeah. Well, enjoy your evening and
All
your
right.
relief from sanding doors.
Yes, no kidding. I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so
Have a
much.
great one. You're
All
welcome.
right. Thank you. You
Take
too.
care. Bye,
Talk to you.
Peggy.
Bye.